This podcast is sponsored by Delilah's Hair Shop, specialists in hair removal of any kind. Get 100% off your next trim if you tell her your deepest secrets. Wait, what?
And speaking of watching stuff on TV, I was thinking, you know what, let's move into this now. And we have to talk about this. Where were you guys when you turned on your, well, probably not TV, or when you're on Facebook, or you got a WhatsApp message, and then you saw Chiwenga's face on TV?
Are we going there? Like, we should have given me a little bit of a disclaimer, bro. Like how do you hoop that? Bro. I mean, you just can't dunk that without, like, at least setting up the alley.
Boy, man, I was proud of that segue, man. Damn,
it was a brilliant segue. Damn, man.
Talk about just heightened emotion.
I thought, okay, TV shows. Then we're gonna go into movies. Nah, you just went into the
depths and darkness of
our country, our home.
You know what? We might flip it back to movies, but we'll see how that goes. Because, like, I went into movies, but then I was like, man, this is another long topic. But I was like, let's get this one done, and then we can move from this one. Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, where were you? And where should we even start?
Jeez. Well, I think maybe you need to set the scene for our non-Zimbabwean listeners.
Oh, right. Okay. Let me just pull this up first, because my friend wrote a good article on a very good. He's you and your BTTs.
My what?
BT Wi-Fi.
It's asking me to download stuff. You know, I'll do it on my phone.
Wait, don't blame my Wi-Fi without any. Where are you going?
I just clicked on the link and to send me somewhere, and then it's asking me to download stuff.
I do not understand what that's about. Where are we coming from?
Okay, I was over.
Anyway, technicals apart from that. Why don't you just copy and paste that?
Cool. We can edit this one out. Cool, we can just edit this.
Yeah,
so the man's got "Don't forget TC's rant" in big.
Bold, bro. I was just
I can see it on the.
I actually have no rant. I actually have nothing.
And this guy sent like a 4-minute voice note.
We just need to edit in there the voice note then.
What was the voice note about?
What were you ranting? I don't
even
TC. It's about so much stuff, which is why we love you, bro.
I can't remember, bro.
Anyway, whilst I'm looking for this, I will just name this. I titled this the dangers of pillow talk.
Pillow talk, my enemy, my ally.
Wow. When you promise your wife things.
Wow.
In after, you can grab one if you want.
I didn't want to say that. That's what I was doing.
Oh, you're just painting.
Bo's taking alcohol from the refrigerator.
Right, what are you guys having?
Not cider. Alright.
Do you have any more beer? Okay, what other beer do you have? Damn.
Okay. Ready, or are you still looking out for beer?
I can listen and choose my alcohol at the same time.
Okay, where am I? Okay,
so this confidently just watched me looking. You could have said something. You could have told her brother something.
So as I was saying, it was the dangers of pillow talk, I would like to call it. So
that's such a douche.
Am I lying though?
You're not. That's why he is such a douche.
Here's with the dangers of pillow talk. What is the context of this?
Okay, so this is what my friend wrote. Okay, so he was saying in December 2016 at 92, Mugabe declared himself ZANU-PF presidential candidacy for the 2018 elections. Although having ruled since 1980, that would have been his second and final 5-year term under the new constitution ratified in 2013. So it had been long anticipated that Emerson Mnangagwa, long-term Mugabe ally, was shoo-in to be his successor, especially after he rose to vice presidency in 2014. Mnangagwa had been looking the part 2, reinventing his heavy-handed reputation by revving up conversation around human rights within the national community, taking charge of the country's agricultural, so on and so forth. But then, over the past few years, however, First Lady Grace Mugabe had begun to make subtle power plays that seemed to position her for the positive succession. She declared herself as the mother of the nation, who was essentially running the country already, obtained a PhD from the University of Zimbabwe.
That's your drink, man.
Is it not good? Trying to swap. Is it
Sorry,
not?
Lance been reading a really serious article
And it was like
about Zimbabwe's independence and literally the first lady just making herself the next leader. And Bo's just trying to like see if I want to drink a raspberry cider. And he's like, nah, I'm not having this. This is not the cure. This
is what the first lady does to you. You have to have the right drink.
But anyway, so in November, she fired Mnangagwa on the 6th of December. And then the armed forces and good lord, this guy likes to use big words. Basically, he's saying that when Chiwenga heard of Mnangagwa's being fired, that's when he decided to step in. Hence the coup, not a coup, that did happen but not supposed to. Okay. It's supposed to happen. So anyway, fast forward to on the 14th, when the army chief Chiwenga declared that he had seized control of the state and Mugabe was now on house arrest. But the 19th, all of the ZANU-PF provinces have voted against his continued leadership, meaning Mugabe, of the party. And on the 21st, after the hesitation and continuing pressure, Mugabe resigned, and that's where we are. Mnangagwa became president. So that was a quick summary of what had happened. And
so basically, an old man left and a crocodile took his place.
Basically,
that's what happened.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, Crocodile's Mnangagwa's nickname. Because of
how cute and cuddly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was like soft to the touch.
Yeah, he was friendly. Your kids could play with
Yeah. So anyway, so guys, I leave the floor to you guys. Wait,
I don't want this floor.
Right, I'll take it. All right. I hope it doesn't turn into a rant because many a time.
So should I take it first so that we can just leave you?
I'll say, you know what? I'm going to be the opening batsman. I'm going to try and put a good foundation. Without throwing my wicket away. This is what I'm going to do.
That's cricket talk, by the way.
Yes, because England got destroyed by Australia for not.
That would be a best moment.
Best moment of every time England lost, which is every time England played.
Actually, they didn't win in Australia.
No,
like they drew, and they only drew because they came Kirkley batting. But then anyway, it's. I think it's very difficult for me to articulate that context of that because I think having been here for such a long time and then being in a place where, like, the thing about the way this country runs when it comes to the politics level is that they will say something to you, but there's a lot of lip service. They won't answer your questions. They'll go around the issue.
Of course. Yeah.
They won't naturally say, hey, we're going to take away your benefits, we're going to take away your premiums, we're going to take away your allowances. It'll be reinvented to something like,
else.
We're going to maximize, or we're in recession at the moment.
The open credit
going to reinvest our public spending.
Or what's the typical word that they say that at the moment that there's no actual public sector spending, we're going to have to sort of cut down on terms of spending like that. Right. They try and justify that with. It's a classic example, in my opinion, is what's happened now with the flu going on in this year, because NHS has had no money for who knows how long. But then the same thing, they cancelled 100,000 surgeries that were booked for the new year. Just that come in this year. Theresa May had to apologise. Jeremy Hunt, who was a former Minister of Health, had to come up and go individually and apologise to people in hospital beds. Then at the same time, a week after, you hear
Damn, he
people
had to
say,
go to 100,000 people?
he actually didn't have to do it. Imagine him. It would be great if he did.
Yeah.
It would be great if someone
You
just
should, yeah.
You'd have then got with the flu that would have probably essentially killed him and done all us a favor.
Yeah.
But anyway. But so this is where you then find. So they will then do something like spin it. And they'll spin it in a way will say, oh, because of the flu's then come in, oh, because of this flu, we can't meet the demands of the NHS. Rather than saying that we haven't got enough money to use this, we haven't got that. So it's all in the sense of it's lip service to try and say it's in our good graces to protect you.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of read in between the lines and just have, it's like, now everyone believes that this is Australian flu that's on there. I, for one, don't buy. Because reality is, I haven't spoken to many GPs. I have the flu now, I spoke to a GP before.
Yeah.
There's a combination of strains that are existing.
Yeah.
So when they're all amalgamated and come together, your body's reacting a certain way in comparison to that. But there's nothing unusual about this. Then the only thing they're saying slightly different is just the feverish elements of that.
Right.
And it's a heightened nature which they spread.
It's basically all flus the same. They're just some
Different,
symptoms
like how
are
it
worse than
affects.
others.
Absolutely. So now if you have all the symptoms coming together, it ends up being a stronger strain.
Yeah.
But not to the point. So there's a girl who died, an 18-year-old girl who died a couple of weeks ago, and they were now saying that the flu came in there, which is wholly irresponsible because it's an individual case. There's no knows about individual cases. Okay, massive diversion as opposed to Zimbabwe.
yeah.
But this is the context of that.
Yeah.
They will try and spin something and still have the audacity or intelligence saying, we're not going to say it in your face. They gave Grace Mugabe a PhD after doing 2 months of university.
Yeah.
Right? She has a doctrine of that. And then she fires the vice president soon after. Then he leaves. I think he was there talking about it a couple of days ago, saying Bob comes to him and says, Where are you? He's like, oh, I'm in South Africa. Why are you in South Africa?
Because my wife is trying to kill me.
He said, because you fired me, boss. He said, your wife is like, oh, what are you talking about? Come here, you're fine. And this is the problem you have with Zim, that we're so far left that the people in power do not care anymore about your respect. They're not trying to tell you that there's a flu that's stopping surgeries coming in. They don't have the dignity to lie to your face. They pretty much will say, I'm now typical emoji, I'm the captain now.
That's a good one.
This is
basically,
And that's the infuriating thing about, so when the tanks started rolling into Zimbabwe, saying then you got a military guy saying, this is not a coup. Bro, what happened to the guy who was reading, to Marco Jacobs, who was reading on the news? And then you got in full army regular saying it's not a coup. What do you mean?
This is not a robbery. Give me all your money. But and even the funny thing was people trying to justify, like talking about the tanks. So like, oh, they're actually not tanks. They're people. They're personnel carriers. So don't.
What?
If they were tanks, then you'd be worried. But these are just personnel characters. I'm like,
wait, how did it change? Change its
technically they were personnel carriers with track wheels on them. Fair enough. That is not the point, my bro.
Nah, that's
the tank. The rolling into.
Right.
It's like, okay, fine, fair enough. It's not a tank. Why are they bringing hundreds of soldiers into the country?
Little reference on the game. We're talking about Command and Conquer with EA Destroy. Command and Conquer Generals had some weapons that you could bring in. So you had your tanks, and then you also then had your APCs, which were armored personnel carrier, which looked pretty much the same. The only difference, one has a cannon, one has a machine gunner on top. The difference with the APCs as an armored personnel carrier that brings people in, it's still a military vehicle coming into your city with 100 of soldiers coming in and saying, it's not a coup. What are you doing here in an army personnel carrier coming in telling me it's not a coup? Like, what happened to the police? What happened to the guys who were there?
It's like pulling up in a race car. No, we're not racing. What do you mean? You pulled up next to me. You're revving the motor and you're looking at the lights, waiting for them to go green. I'm like, I'm not racing.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, and this is the problem I have with him. So it's so difficult for me, and I understand where we were at. So we needed that dramatic change. My reservation, I had this conversation with my mom and my sister quite often. It was like, I don't think our progression, Africa's never had a transition of power that involved military forces and it was positive.
I was going to say no bloodshed.
Because the whole thing about people say there was no bloodshed in Zim.
Wow, except for them guards.
Except for the guards,
I mean, dude, there's a whole lot more violence that took place around the covers that we didn't see. The difference is that the military spun it in quite a way to make it look like it was a people's revolution. So if you get and this is where the ignorance that comes into our countries in, because you then get people who, let's go with the army tank guys. All these guys are really nice and they're so cool. But these guys have committed some heinous acts to be
yeah.
driving there
It's like
responding
they're
to the
Literally
police.
up to the day before.
Up
Yeah.
to the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then it's like people still okay living in ignorance.
Yeah.
And then again, I think the bigger issue for me is that people are always going to look at it as long as I am okay. I now know
Yeah,
I know
exactly,
friends
yeah.
personally went to high school now who associate themselves. They call themselves croc boys, right? They don't know Mnangagwa, but because
Call
now
themselves croc boys.
they call themselves croc
That's a
boys.
thing?
Yeah, because they are supporters of him. So there's something called the Croc Boys. So, but again, because they support him as being the next president. Oh yeah, look what he did to Bob. Look what he, look the G40 did whatever to this. And I'm like, that guy that you're praising,
He's not-
Jay-Z
he was
said it
what?
famously.
Yeah.
Like what I eat doesn't make you go to the toilet.
Yeah.
And you are celebrating a guy who's not putting food on your plate, and you're not going to the toilet because you're hungry, right?
Yeah.
And this is what you're doing right now. This is where that hero worship continues. We've just essentially
Of course.
elevated one person who was in the periphery next to the guy, exalting him,
Yeah.
and he's now gone in that point, and we're not holding him in any accountability. We're now exalting
Yeah.
him in the same way that
They're
we
like
did.
Because
Hydra.
he was
Zanu
he
PF
was
is Hydra.
that is so true. Oh man, that is
Look at his Hydra.
man.
Just chop off one head and another one grows in
another
its
two
place.
take his place. But like, oh, that is crazy.
That's
Because
deep.
because Mnangagwa was essentially Bob's trigger man. Bob was like, this man needs to disappear. Mnangagwa was
You know
like,
what to do.
I that's what it is. So we've just taken the assassin and put him in charge.
Yeah.
And even in the I had a really good point and it's gone now. So, but I'm gonna go back to the
Yeah.
whole. I think it's different for us in diaspora because we can see it. We're looking from the outside in, and so we're seeing what's happening and we're weighing it up against what's happened in history. But we haven't lived in that for the past 14, 15 years. The people who are at home right now,
No.
it seems like there are quite a few people who are very much aware of everything that you've just said, but they're just so downtrodden and just got to this point where they're like, we just need change. They're basically Arsenal fans, where it's like, we need change. If we can see that change can happen, whether it's good change or bad change, let's see change happen and move on from there. And even though the army has dressed it up as it was the people's revolt, the people now think we can actually make change happen. So, and that's not to justify how it happened, and that's not to say that from now on the people will step up and fight that. But
This
the
is the
reason
thing.
why people were celebrating is because they needed to see that.
I celebrated as I was here myself, essentially having tears of joy, crying that
Yeah.
my country is liberated again.
Yeah.
After that,
Yeah.
my reservations that I don't want to cry for a third time.
Yeah,
thinking my country will be liberated again on mistakes that
Yeah.
we should have learned the first time.
Yeah.
History is there in a poignant way for pretty much to allow us to learn from our
Yeah.
mistakes in itself.
Yeah.
History is, if you ever look at the timeline, as I say, African revolution when it involves tanks, you can go all the way down from Congo to Rwanda to Sierra Leone to Liberia to Nigeria, where it has a military influence, and you can see a causational link between what happens before and what happens after.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting thing that our circumstance were perfectly dressed up as it being a completely non-violent act where the people were walking and marching the streets. And we, as completely oppressed people, right, who have now got some kind of relief, we're like, oh my God, we are free. But it's contained freedom.
Yeah.
Right, you are free to an extent. You're free within these regards. Okay, you go back to your home and so. When you're right, there is an element of me being a diaspora where I my adaptability, my connectiveness with that is going to be on a superficial level, on a temporary level. It's much more difficult because any person's diaspora who also feels like I want to go back home.
Yeah.
Wants to also go
Sense
back
of
home
relief,
absolutely.
to gain into that freedom. And I think that everyone has a different element that it brings.
Yeah,
Like I'm living in England and understanding of the European or English law will have an influence on how you read the situations. Likewise in America with Trump, likewise someone who's in Belgium, someone who's in Australia.
Yeah.
They all have their law inclinations of how that works with their reality, which makes us quite fortunate because if we were to all go back home, we have multiple understandings of how these different democracies work.
Yeah.
But we still need to get to a place where the democracy is now saying, hey,
this
we're going to work through. I mean,
Yeah.
I personally, look, I saw Mnangagwa making a Twitter page, right? I don't know
Wait,
what.
he's on
Fam,
Facebook
he's
as
on
well.
Facebook. Whoever's running his social media is killing the
I
game.
don't know if that's the word I would use, Because I saw his Twitter out. It looked like we did a video was done with a Nokia 6210.
Okay, I haven't seen.
Well, now from that perspective, yeah, we can.
but his Facebook game, like whoever's doing that, it's because he is playing the man of the people role to Oscar with.
Have you seen what the wife is doing? She was visiting prisons and visiting pregnant women in prisons and giving them food.
And he's foregone the motorcade. He's just rolling around in one. It's like a Mercedes ML. The recent trip that him and his dignitaries took, they all flew economy. They didn't hire out a plane and stuff. And the thing is, we are here and we can see that, and it's like we know what you're about, fam.
See, this is what my biggest issue is though with Mnangagwa, because if you start looking at people like I don't want to sort of name you, but if you start looking at people like Chawengwa and his wife, Chawengwa's wife is Chiwenga. Same thing. They're all embezzled.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Chawenga as well, if you start looking at there was a divorce that he had with his wife, which came out recently, and the information that came through about the divorce and stuff, and they're talking about the papers. The stuff the assets that they own with him and his wife are considerable. They're considerable in this country. There'll be royalty status in this country, like genuinely. Diamonds and emeralds and mines, tourism companies and shit like that. The problem that you start having with that narrative of him being the man of the people, the guy who goes and takes an ML, doesn't leave the motorcade, the guy does an economy, it spins it even more. I am not really stealing from you guys. I am with you guys. But we look at what you have in terms of your assets. You have our assets. And we continue to celebrate this guy, and then we keep on allowing him to do that without any accountability.
Yeah, because I think just recently, what did he do recently? There's something that he did. It's just run away from me now. But I had something that he just did recently that I was just like, man, this guy is really playing. Do you know what? This is what I realized is that it's like when Obama. I was telling this to my friends. Like when Obama took over Bush, Obama didn't have to do much because the bar had been lowered so much by Bush. Yeah. So I think this is the same thing. He doesn't have to do much. Yeah. He just have to do okay, I'm just gonna do this. But because the bar had been lowered so much, just
anything he does that's slightly
because he went to go visit what's his name, Morgan Tsvangirai and his house. It was a big ass story.
Yeah, but this is the thing.
Bob did the same thing going to Tsvangirai's house after.
But we're like, what's your game?
But up till that point, up till that point, everyone knows it's like, you're going to visit him, but we know what's up.
Yeah.
What the one thing that only time we'll only be able to tell after time is that it seems like because my dad was involved in politics and stuff, and he was saying it seems like some of the people around Chiwenga, some of the people around Chiwenga are like not Chiwenga, sorry, around Mnangagwa is he's embezzled enough money to not need to steal any more money. Jeez. He's sorted out his businesses and stuff. What he wants to do is have a greater legacy than Bob. There's no only time will be able to tell this that he wants to have a greater legacy than Bob, and he's put things in place that he's still getting his billions regardless.
Right.
But now because he has that comfort, he can actually play at being a good president just to outlast Bob, if that makes sense.
I find that is a fallacy. Personally, I would say it openly. It's the same thing with Ramaphosa in South Africa.
Yeah.
So Ramaphosa is an embezzler and extorter of South African economy in his highest regard. And it basically was who's the more corrupt and who's the one who's going to make it look like he's not doing the most corrupt stuff. And Ramaphosa he had some serious deals with some of the people in South Africa in terms of some of the Indian dudes. I mean, they talk about Jacob Zuma. Zuma and the Guptas. Ramaphosa has some influence with some foreign investors as well. They all did. The problem that we have is that it's not so much on these politicians. We exalt them as the people to do that. I can Zimbabwe circumstances slightly different in South Africa. Of course, in South they needed to get rid of Zuma and they wanted someone who they felt as an ANC could sort of do that. It was them. We did that, but the only person who kind of gave us that. You're talking about that story and reading what your friend was reading. I don't buy the narrative that Chawenga and Mnangagwa was all coincidental in that regard.
yeah.
Oh, no.
Their affiliations
Yeah.
with much more
of course,
strongly linked.
because it shows now that Chiwenga is now VP. I think.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He is
It
VP.
makes
Because he retired. He retired
As
as
general.
and then 2 weeks later he was VP. I was like, yo, and I actually felt like an idiot. I'm like, how did I not see that coming?
But that was evident, though. And that's why for me...
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I felt like a proper idiot. I was just like, he's retired. Okay, I guess maybe he wants to end on a high. And then I saw he was vice president. I was just like,
But this is the problem that I have with, and this is where I say that ignorance begets ignorance, but we also are our own product of ignorance. If we keep living in a... And this is where I think it is an element of, and I think I'm not religious particularly, so I think it's an element of being completely religious. We have an element of always having faith, and this faith element ends up being blinding faith. The blinding faith is dangerous because you end up following something on a notion of wanting it to be good in the long run, and not opening your eyes to the reality. Everyone wants our country to be good, but every time he then affiliates himself with someone religious or anything like that and says we're doing A, B, C, D, our good-natured as Zim people, as people of faith and people who follow that, who want the best of. Let's just give him a chance. You pay a chance, guy. You know, he can do this and do that.
God,
Right?
it's all over Facebook, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Right.
People saying like, "Oh, give him a chance, give Children. Hey, he's only just become the president. Give him." I was like, this dude.
just like, yo, you know the number of people this same person you want to give a chance, the number of people he made disappear.
There's people who he has bodies. He has more bodies than Snoop and Chris and The Wire. You know what I mean? And you're talking. That's just what I'm saying. So, and in that sense, where do you then, as an individual, question yourself and giving blind faith to a person who's shown his own colors already? Look, and this is where I think when it comes into Zim. And it's a very fine position because as a people who have a very religious inclination, our natural sort of way of following it is to be positive. And that's our gift, but it's our curse.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
That's true.
I
No,
agree.
that is definitely true. And it's I remember speaking to, because like my friends are colleagues. I don't see them outside of work.
I don't hang out with it.
Colleagues.
You better not listen to this podcast. He don't like you.
Yeah. No, because like I've got one of them who like he's like a fan of Mugabe and all that kind of stuff. And he was watching this, like the whole coup say, like saying like a fan. It's like, oh, this is great for the Zimbabwean people and all that kind of stuff. And then I tried to explain it from like my point of view. I was like, you know, the thing is, like, if people have been hungry for a very long time, and if you give them bread and water, they'll be grateful. But if you like you don't have to take them to, let's say, Rodizio Rico. Just give them bread and water, and they'll be more than happy to say, yes, thank you very much, I'm cool. And that's the thing. It's like people had been hungry for new leadership for a very long time. And then when somebody seemed to be doing the right thing, people were like, there we go. We found him. But one of the the scariest things now is that who is there to oppose Mnangagwa?
Yeah, this is the thing.
Who is there to say, mate, you're putting these kind of policies. I want to challenge you on those policies that you... People, maybe somebody's like, you know, I'm not going to challenge because my family might be in danger, man. I might not wake up the next morning, mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you've got somebody in the army as VP. You're like, how do I come against that? You know what I mean? And is there anybody who's had, let's say, at least 5 years experience as...
What is they don't elevate anyone to be in a position to be promoted.
Yeah.
They hold on to power. And this is the thing, dude, like the Zim politics thing really sort of just gets to me because you start getting some people, I think it was Ignatius Chombo who actually was sitting in as vice president, as an PF spokesman or sort of polity chair. He has a position where basically sort of allows enactment and stuff like that to step into power. And he was one of the key propagators of financial fraud and misconduct in Zim when we were at our
and they
peak.
drag him through the mud with that one.
No, but at the same time,
he
but
was a scapegoat.
Yeah, essentially that. But then you also then go back to some of the PF members who have been old guys in the slave bureau, dudes who have essentially been involved massively in embezzling and sort of doing all that stuff, and were Bob people. And then tomorrow they're saying we want him to go, and then they support Mnangagwa like that.
Yeah.
Right? the sincerity and genuineness of that all it's void and it's null. And the problem that I feel is this is where we come back to. This is, and I think it's an easier question to say here for me, men not experiencing that, because you also ask, what's the alternative? Do we go through a couple more years of this horrific nature? Because the only reality was going to be Grace in power.
Damn.
And even
and so that goes back to the whole point. We just want change, and as long as it's no longer Bob and it's definitely not Grace, we'll take it.
Yeah.
So it's literally like
the worst of two
it's like,
evils.
do I get hit with a whip that has 9 tails on it, or a whip with
Just
three on it? I'll take the whip with 3 any day. But
Still getting whipped.
after a certain point, your flesh will look exactly the same. It'll just take longer.
And this is the one I try to remember. I think there was a video on Facebook or somewhere that's saying that Mnangagwa now wants to ask Mugabe where that 15 billion went.
Jeez, this 15 billion again.
because he knows where he is.
Yeah, he knows.
They all know where it went. It was split between the G40, Lacoste, Chiwenga. Jeez.
Yeah, just in case people don't know, the $15 billion apparently meant 15 billion just disappeared in Zimbabwe.
Not apparently.
Well, it has disappeared.
Apparently, nobody knows where it
Yeah,
is. And everybody who stole it is asking everybody else where it is.
When they meet it up for drinks using the same money they had to basically.
Yeah,
rip up the
exactly.
bar.
So I mean, it's I guess it's one of those whereby, you know, like I'll call it bittersweet because one moment you'd be like, okay, I'm happy that obviously we don't have to deal with that regime, but then, excuse me, on the bitter side, when you start thinking about it and analyzing it, and you'll be like, this is quite depressing. This is very depressing. But I don't know if any guys got anything else to mention about that before we move on to the.
I think we need to move to some positive news.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm
yeah.
happy. I'm happy you mentioned that because I want to mention about Donald. No, I'm joking.
I wish we were filming this. TC.
I'm not ready.
His jaw just dropped like.
I'm not
Donald
ready.
Trump.
I'm really,
What a great year he's had.
No, we are not talking about that.
Do you know
Man.
what? I think we've talked about enough depressing stuff because
Yeah.
I was gonna go into like this, like in sports wise, I was gonna talk about that, like the whole Sani Aluko debacle, Harvey Weinstein when it comes to movies. So I was just like, you know what? I'm leaving that alone. And then just to end it off, where we are? Yeah, just to end it off the pod, movies, guys. Right?
No. Before we do that,
There's a rant.
No. Oh, well, we can add this into the rant if you want to. It's a bit of sport related. Then the Luca one would have been great to talk about, but it's very emotive. So I think it would be
Yeah,
safe to
yeah,
stay away.
so-
Save it for the next one.
Yeah.
The Annie Luca one is deep.
Yeah.
And same as Harvey Weinstein as well. That's just that's
Mates.
extra.
Yeah, because I did want to talk about the Me Too thing, but
Yeah, then we could even that's
yeah, we'll move into
Yeah,
Aziz
yeah.
Ansari
Yeah,
as well.
so-
Then we can include that.
Anyway, so
But
say what you want to say, and then I'll find a way to segue.
Sanchez is in Manchester.
Oh, has it been confirmed?
Well, there's all this talk about Sanchez.
Yeah, because he was getting on a plane and
This is where we are in our lives, where social media is following the guy. So basically, someone took a video, and I don't know if someone took a video of him getting onto a private plane.
Are you kidding me?
It looks like that, and then
So what happened
This
to
is for those who are listening.
Yeah.
You know, you don't care. Like, if you don't know who
You can-
Sanchez is and that he's
Okay.
going to Man United, it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah,
Go
you
about
can
your
turn
day.
off
Go
now
about-
if you wish.
Yeah.
We won't mind.
We'll come back to movies. Lance is gonna put a timestamp.
And I'll let you know.
Yeah,
But anyway, you're saying
so
Sanchez to.
to United. It looks like, to be honest with you, I think it was always going to be confirmed it was going to happen. I think it was more on. It'd be interesting to know what the breaking point or the thing that kind of delayed the deal actually taking place, because there's a lot of talk that Mkhitaryan's contract or what he was demanding at Arsenal was to be the same as Sanchez was received at Arsenal, if not the same. Fallacy, right? It's to complete makeup.
Yeah.
The way that I see it as well, I maybe I'm just thinking about it as an Arsenal perspective. I was saying this to Bill yesterday. Conspiracy theories, in some sense, it might play out in the next couple of days. I think this deal has been kind of delayed a little bit by Arsenal to essentially delay the deal to allow not only Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang to be announced at the same time.
Right.
Okay,
to increase
right, okay.
For that to be in competition,
So
so
that-
that the prices.
Not so much.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Sanchez is gonna go. Sanchez is gone.
Oh, he's gone.
The deal is done.
So
Right.
basically, they want to announce the two coming in together.
I think so.
Double whammy of
Double
Oh, we
whammy.
got this and this. Woohoo!
No,
We're saved.
Yeah.
Defense is crap. Anyway.
Yeah, no, but more importantly, to win the fans back.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, I think
That like we're doing something.
Yeah, I don't think I can emphasize how bad it's been like these couple of days, but I think more so after the Bournemouth game, where the flags haven't flown. People are talking about. I was reading this on Twitter. People are talking about bring back the flags. Arsene Wenger needs to go. This is his last sort of year, and because he's got 2 years on his deal, they're saying that this year has to go.
Right.
But at the same time, the bigger problem, in my opinion, is that, and I think this is where the board are so greedy that they know if their pockets get lighter, then it's a big problem.
Yeah, of course.
And only when the pockets get significantly lighter, the Arsenal people
Don't
stop buying and going to tickets
Tickets, yeah.
and start going to the games.
Yeah.
And it's a significant amount of people who start, barring. So much you can't bar people to go to football games.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a movement that could take place to not go to games,
Yeah.
particularly season holders.
Oh yeah,
Right.
the season ticket. Oh yeah.
Season ticket holders could essentially say we're not going to
We're
go
not
there.
to renew it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that then means that a season ticket holder has to either sell their ticket to someone else or whatever, and that will have a big push on their money. You have a big push on the annual general meeting. You have a big push on how it comes across as a club.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways, them wanting to announce Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang at the same time is to basically consolidate their position.
Absolutely.
And win over the fans and sort of say, look, we understand that we cocked up. We understand we didn't make the best decisions that we had. We lost Sanchez, but we got 2 players now.
Yeah.
Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan,
Yeah.
and this is what the best thing will be for the club.
The most annoying thing about that is honestly, realistically speaking, if fans were to spend the next 3 weeks, I'm not talking about season ticket holders. The next 3 weeks, no one goes to a game, no one buys merch. That's all it would take.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
because it would hit their pockets
Yeah.
so hard. They'd be like,
Season-
okay.
yeah, season ticket holders already bought their tickets.
Yeah,
that
so
was-
they can still go to the game.
yeah,
if
but
it was
they will
like
stop
the
going on the
everyday
principle.
people,
But the
yeah.
problem
Yeah.
is that it would be more so on like the emptiness of the
of the
stadium,
stadium,
yeah.
that's what is required.
That's what you'll see. That there's no one in the Emirates.
And it just needs to be 3. And
Yeah.
what you do is you make sure it's the 3 biggest games. So the next time they play Man City or the next time they play Tottenham, just
the
empty stadium,
derbies, yeah.
no one in the stands.
Yeah.
And because like that list that I sent you guys with the cost,
The prices,
the
oh, yeah,
prices,
the tickets,
basically
yeah.
how much each football club makes per fan.
Yeah, I think we all saw that one, which is it's not new, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but this comes back down.
Arsenal's the highest in London, isn't it?
It's the highest in the world.
I don't know if it's Arsenal one. Real Madrid, I think.
Yeah, Real
No,
Madrid.
let me bring up the list.
I
Real
think I might
Madrid
have
is
seen-
much lower down than that.
That's hard to believe.
I don't. I find that one hard to believe.
What is
because
it in
the Arsenal
euros or pounds?
I think it might have been.
It was pounds.
Pounds.
It's in
Really?
pounds. Yeah.
I guess
let
if
me
you
find the list
convert it,
again.
it might be cheaper.
There's all this talk about on Twitter now. They're saying that Manchester United haven't ever completed a deal to sign Alexis Sanchez from Arsenal. This is from the Daily Mail, but I haven't seen anything conclusive. The last thing I was reading about from the
The
Guardian was
newspapers
saying,
haven't. Okay.
yeah, I mean the Daily Mail sort of.
So yeah, income per fan per game. Arsenal are number 1 in the world, £74. Real Madrid third, £55. Juventus 11th with 33 quid. Man City 40 quid. Even Man U 53 quid per fan per game. That's just.
There was, sorry, on the Chelsea fan perspective, now.
Yeah,
Chelsea fans are really not happy.
What was that?
So you got this is like Alexis Sanchez has arrived to Carrington in Manchester United,
Yeah.
while Chelsea are interested in some Burnley player, apparently.
and
You see,
Carroll.
don't tell me it's. Bruh, when I heard that, I was just like, are you serious?
Andy Carroll and Peter Crouch was another one that was being rumoured. as well.
Why?
I would rather have Peter.
But I read that they're going for Dzeko for £44 million.
Okay.
Which I don't understand. I don't know if it's a good deal because Dzeko will be cup tied in Champions League. He's already played for.
I also
But I
heard
don't
that.
see. I don't see Roma selling. Do this.
Yeah.
Nah, they're not gonna.
He's
Plus,
their
like,
best
I
player.
also heard that Chelsea are kind of lagging on the having the number of British players in their
Yes,
squad.
which
That's
is why
because you guys sell all your children. That's why
You know what?
British
Look,
born players.
we're going into football. We're not meant to be going into football.
Yeah, let's go into
to
those.
movies. We're
Are
meant
we-
to be into movies.
You
Yeah.
should have put a football segment in there.
It was you. You're the one who.
You said you wanted to say something before we get to movies.
TC. Anyway, movies.
Anyway, movies. Anyway, just quickly, guys.
Okay.
Good movies that you watched in 2017.
Okay, so going with the.
I know mine and Bo's are always gonna.
They're probably gonna coincide.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
so
go
good
ahead.
things in movies, bad things in movies
Yeah.
of 2017. The best thing in movies for me in 2017 was the resurgence of the horror movie. Because I'm a massive horror movie fan. And 2017, there have been some incredible horror films. Like, even if you ignore the horror element for 1 second, like just brilliantly written, brilliantly shot, inventive, original storylines that have just been incredible. Case in point, Get Out. If you have watched Get Out and you didn't like that movie, you're a racist. I don't care.
I think so.
I
went to watch it with friends.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to them that much.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. I watched it with them and I'm like...
Yeah, like
Wow.
Jordan Peele was on the Stephen Colbert show, and on so Stephen Colbert was like, so on Rotten Tomatoes, it's 99%. So who do you think the 1% is that didn't like the movie? And it's just like, yeah, racism. And he's like, oh, racism does reviews now. I was like, well, clearly, 'cause, you know what I mean? Like, hands down. But there's also stuff like, for horror aficionados like myself, there's stuff like The Void, which is a throwback to like 80s body horror. And then that was 2017. And then there was stuff like and it's gone. It Comes at Night, which is an incredible movie. I don't want to talk about it because anything I say about it is a spoiler, literally. What else did I see? It Stains the Blood Red. It Stains the Sand Red, which is just a great indie horror movie. And then you've got It.
Oh yeah,
I never watched it.
It's oh man, it was I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So for me as a horror fan, 2017 was great because there was a lot of
Resurgence.
big budget and low budget horror movies that were just great movies.
I think with horrors, I think what they've done is that they scaled back a lot.
Well,
As it-
this is the thing because horror is such a massive genre that a lot of the subgenres are what has brought the resurgence.
Oh,
So you can have
okay,
a psychological thriller
Yeah.
horror. You can have a comedy horror.
Right,
You can
I
have
get you.
you know what I mean. You can have romantic horror. You know that's kind of what it is.
Because apparently the who did that? I know the company.
Blumhouse.
That's it. That's
There
the
you go.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
whereby like, well, they're partially responsible for this resurgence
Yeah,
because
definitely.
Blumhouse won't give you a lot of money.
Yeah.
To make your horror movie, so they'll say, "Look, you got $2 million and that's it."
Yeah.
And that $2 million, you have to use every single penny of that. You cannot ask for more, so
Yeah.
that would force you to be more inventive in the way you.
Have you guys watched Split?
I know
I
about
choose to watch
Split.
it. Yeah.
I know about it. but-
You guys need to watch Split.
See, I don't want to watch
I've
something
already
that makes
know
me feel
this.
I'm at work.
No, watch Split.
No,
Trust me.
it's in my-
I'm not denying it.
Yeah,
I just
but
don't
you
want to
don't-
watch something that relates
I
me
know,
to work,
I
like
know,
a working
I know,
mental
I
health.
know.
And then I'll be like, this is so you this disorder. You know, I can see there's a bit personality disorder there.
But
yeah.
I'm sorry, depersonalization disorder. I'm like,
The worst thing about movies in
Yeah.
2017 was Justice League.
Oh,
Now-
for me, I think it's the worst movie, but
the most fun Justice League was oh man, it's one of those movies that I really enjoyed watching. So much so that I watched it twice in cinemas.
you watched it maybe the second time.
Yeah, but I can't honestly recommend it to someone.
You can't.
Like I couldn't say, "Yo, T, you should check out Justice League. I had fun in it."
I ain't gonna watch it.
I would say, "Yo,
Wait,
T."
I was embarrassed to actually tell you, TC, that I'm going to watch Justice League.
That's why I paid for it.
I'm glad you guys know me well enough to not tell me
That's-
things
that's
like
why I
that,
paid
because you
for
know
it.
how I react.
But I'm sure Lance will agree. After we left that movie, like there was so much wrong with that, but it was actually it was
Do you
kind
know
of
what?
fun.
Do you know what? Like there was a part in that movie whereby TC, I'm sure you don't mind. It's
Okay,
like
I'm not- yeah.
Lois Lane and Martha Kent were talking to each other.
Yeah.
And Bo was like, "Don't they look like sisters?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, mate! Somebody's
the same-
mom
they look the
and
same
his
age.
girlfriend
Yeah.
are like the same age."
And obviously there's nothing wrong for all the ladies listening.
Yeah,
there's nothing
there's-
wrong with women of a certain age. All women are beautiful and special snowflakes. But in the context of the
that
narrative
of the story. Yeah.
Someone's gonna get you for that.
Man, I know so
Yeah.
badly.
It's
That's
like,
why I'm not going to give him my
email
Twitter.
address.
But like, it's like in the context of the movie, Lois is supposed to be around the same age as Clark.
That means
But-
half the age of. Well,
I mean,
almost
yeah,
like
how about how less than half the age
Yeah.
of her future mother-in-law, but they look the same age. But I'm not sure that the actresses are the same age. But the actress playing Lois, Amy Adams, does not look that old in anything else I've seen her in.
Yeah, right.
It's just in Man of Steel she looked old, and in this she looked old. I'm just like, is it how they're filming her? Is it the makeup? Like, what
Probably
is
they
going
digitized
on?
it,
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that whole movie. I don't think even like Joss. I think they should have just lifted the Zack Snyder's cut, and we would have enjoyed it. How bad it is. In
But
fact,
this is the element that of Hollywood that TC hates. The reason why they cut it down so short is that they could show it more times in the
yeah.
cinema,
Yeah.
therefore get more viewings, therefore get more people putting money
Yeah.
into it. And what happened was it didn't even open in the top 20.
Mate, Paddington made more money than Paddington made more money. Paddington Bear made more money than Justice League.
I won't add much to this conversation. As you guys know how I feel about one, movies that are made in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Two blockbuster, quote unquote, blockbuster movies that are made that are absolutely just.
They were horrible.
Yeah.
I'll watch my language.
Yeah,
but
but
they are just that bad.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
essentially when you could watch something that's better, something that's completely better in terms of storyline, in terms of sort of just a dramatization,
Before
without having to pay nonsense money to go watch it.
Before you get into like the good, no,
That's
we'll
what
let
we
it
might
say
want.
the
You're good at bad.
But for my the worst, I think one of the worst movies I watched last year. It wasn't released last year.
Okay.
Was Terminator Genesis.
Oh my
Why would you do
Lord.
that?
Man,
Why, see, this is where the problem is. That's your fault. That's your fault. The fact that did you pay for that?
no, Netflix.
Again, that's a waste of money for me.
But-
because
No,
I'm not gonna watch something that. See, I'm a big, as you already know,
Yeah.
that I don't like rebooting of films that already exist.
It's not a reboot, it's a sequel.
It's a sequel. Yeah.
It's not a reboot.
Mate, do you know?
What's
do you
the
know what?
concept? I think I read about this one. This is worse with the Terminator timeline, and that's the one.
Mate, did you know they go back into time, right? Back into the 1980s. I was like, yes, that's good. That's good. Then they go forward into time. They didn't. They go past the Terminator 3 timeline.
Yeah.
They're like, we're gonna go into 2007. Was it 2007?
Yeah.
And then Carl Reese is like, no, we're not going to 2007. We're gonna go in the further. And I was like, what the hell are you doing?
The concept was genius. Because what the concept was essentially because of all the people going back and forth in time, it's messed up the timeline.
Like,
so different things are happening
at the same
differently
time, yeah.
than the way they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Concept wise,
That-
genius.
execution.
Let's do that. Execution was like wow. Like, and literally the first 10 minutes of that movie, you're like, okay, we're cool.
Yeah.
There's a scene where old Arnie fights young Arnie. Epic.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And then things just go worse and worse. And like, oh, okay, maybe they'll bring it back. Oh,
No.
Why-
And
why am I still here? I'm
and
so
it
glad
had
they
that
made
movie
that
had worse CGI than the original Terminator. No, Terminator.
Can we
2.
stop talking about this? Like, I think we're wasting valuable time instead of talking about Get Out. Like genuinely.
Okay, let's start with
Alright.
your worst. Okay,
So-
no, that was your worst. Best.
That was my. Oh, where do I even start with the best?
It was a good year last year.
It was a good year. There's just so many. Well, for me, I think.
What did you guys watch at the cinema? Because that's accurate. The only way I can decide.
Do you know what I can say is that last year for me, what
I need to look at what
I've gone out. I've watched. Well, movies that came out last year actually got me to go to the cinema more times than I've ever done in my whole life.
Those last
It's
year?
usually just once
Yeah.
when I go to the cinemas, but last year I went about probably 3-4 times.
And do you remember what you watched every time? Apart from Justice League, which was just
The other superhero ones.
why?
Basically.
I'm not
That
gonna-
is superhero.
Did you watch Civil War? Is Civil War out last year?
Yeah. No, was it
this year?
It was this. No,
Wait, best moment.
no,
Actually, before
Civil
we.
War. Civil War was last.
Oh yeah, no, it was the year before. So.
Year before. Yeah.
16.
But
Yeah.
before we go into Get Out, best moment of last year, the Black Panther trailer. You're not gonna say.
Yeah. Say something now, TC. What you gotta say about the Hollywood complex, TC?
Let's hear this.
Right.
Then you can go into your Get Out after this.
I'm not even going to get into Get Out because I think that Get Out is self-explanatory. I think that if you still haven't watched Get Out, and there's this, I think essentially it's one of two things. Either you're too afraid of the themes, which then makes you racist, right? I think it's just genuinely. I think that's just if you're afraid about how you would feel after you feel about the leave that movie best because you got a tiny bit of racism that's inside you that eats you up and makes you call people of different ethnicities, colors, and just little derogatory things.
Yeah.
That's one, right? The other thing is Get Out is just an amazing movie, multi-layered. It's such an impactful movie. And if essentially talk about just how amazing it is on a horror perspective, which I really wasn't, and then understand that it is a horror because of the fear.
Commentary as well.
The Get Out is just for me. I think it was the best movie of last year.
Yeah,
right?
I can't even deny that. Yeah,
right.
Of many years, to be fair.
Yeah.
Going back to Black Panther, and also for me, I think the best superhero movie that I ever watched is The Dark Knight. Right. I think The Dark Knight is. I've always said this to you, bro, and I understand there's obviously argument purposes. We can say A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight is what I think a superhero movie should be. Right. I can understand, of course, it's a dark story. You've got all these elements, but I think it should be legendary. It shouldn't be something that's just done. I watched 10-15 minutes of Civil War yesterday, the day before, and I switched it off. It's just. I would have chucked it. If it was a DVD, I'd have thrown it.
Wow.
I'm dead serious.
I'm with you.
Okay, go on.
This is the difference because I understand you guys have a romantic aspect of coming through comedy. One of the amazing comic books that you gave me was Civil War.
Yeah.
And that to this day is one of the best comic books I ever read. And then you start talking about things like Identity Crisis and what's the other ones that the 4 books that we sort of spoke about. I don't know. Can't remember.
Yeah.
There's this Planetary, right?
Planetary. Yeah.
There's an amazing amount of comic books that I just. Comic books are an amazing genre of information and detail and accuracy and storyline. So Civil War, what they did had me flicking pages so quickly I couldn't understand it. Watching the first 10-15 minutes of Civil War felt like I should have just not started it. Like genuinely.
The first 10-15 minutes or so.
Is
that when Nick Fury gets... Have you reached that part? When Nick Fury gets shot up in his car?
Okay. There's no difference to me. Like, I mean, they basically they go to Nigeria or then Wakanda was supposed to be Nigeria.
Oh,
and then
they were in Lagos.
Right.
Yeah, but you got the King of Wakanda coming in. So that's the setup of obviously of
Black
Panther coming in. I understand those concepts. I understand that they build them up. For me, I think it's almost like an EA thing for me. It's an EA element of trying to set up one story, and they do better than DC does. Right, because DC, but they're good at it. But it's still, it's such a poor script.
No.
Civil War poor script.
No. I can agree with you. Not
hear me out.
Go on.
Hear me out. Right, you guys have said your piece. I think this is the fanboy territory. You guys will always see the positive.
No, do you know what? Let me put you on mine. It took me 5 years to get into these movies, so I ain't no fan.
You're there now. Objectivity is very neutral. I can't take the reason I keep saying about The Dark Knight in terms of a script, and I think this is the thing about when maybe it's just the way I watch movies.
Too long though. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, like the movies that I watch are very character oriented. There's a massive build in terms of the character. There's a massive element in plot direction. Yeah. What are we doing with this character? I understand that Civil War had already built up some of these concepts in these superheroes with the different movies that came out from Iron Man to all of these guys that are here now. The key thing for me is that it then ends up being I watched Life. And I don't want to knock on this movie, but Life is a superhero movie of some sequence. Of course, it's a horror and there's other things that happen within that. Yeah. But the build up of what they do in life, from the characters, the scene, the first character, to having seen him and his family, of course they're in space, so there's a connective about them in space and all that. Then you start finding out why this guy's been in space for so long, and then they identifies what happens to him after the decisions he makes. There's a build up towards these characters, and it's meticulous and it's intentional, and it's at the end of it, he's like, yeah. When I watch Marvel stuff, it basically feels like it's just for money. It is just for build up for money. They're not building up, and this is why I keep saying that The Dark Knight is the pinnacle for me of the storyline. Because you already know this is the first concept of Batman and why he is like he is. You understand why the Joker is like he is. And we start seeing the sadistic nature of the Joker. Each scene he is introduced. No scene is wasted. They don't waste a moment in creating an aspect of a character each scene plays a factor to what happens at the end, to the emotional roller coaster you're on with the character. Like, oh my God, did the Joker then doing this, and then Two-Face coming in, and then Bruce Wayne. Like, there's all this build-up that happens meticulously. The only film that I think meets on a superhero Hollywood concept that I watched last year that was the same was War of the Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
Right. Have you watched that?
No, I still haven't watched that.
Which one's War?
The third one, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's, for me, if you want to watch a film that talks about, and this is not a moment that's wasted, it's very meticulous from the first time they introduce you to Planet of the Apes, to the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, to the, the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, to the War of the Planet of the Apes. And the Dawn is probably like the weaker one compared to the three.
Okay.
The War of the Planet of the Apes is amazing. Yeah. It's an amazing film because it builds up from Caesar, from the first two ones that he's had in, to then kind of coming into the war that happens essentially with humans, how they play in within that. And there's not a moment lost or wasted. Even the comedic moments are intentional and not just thrown there to kind of make it lighthearted because the scene is spacious. I find that, and this is turning into your rant, Lance, as you were saying, I find that when I watch Hollywood films that are just like that, like Civil War, wasted my damn time. I really could waste and invest my time in watching something that has a lot of build, and I couldn't even start talking about movies I watch in the cinema. I've only watched 2, but I watch movies often, and a lot of the movies that I watch, I'm just like, yo, I am spazzing out at what I just watched right now. Like, I just think on top of my head, I watched a Kevin Bacon film. This wasn't last year, where he's like a police officer, and he's basically driving with his cop car, with his car, and these kids that get his car.
Cop car.
It's a cop car.
Yeah.
Have you watched Cop Car?
I haven't. It's on my list. The director, I think that was his first film, and then he's the guy who directed Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Right.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I would. For me, this is the difference within that. An amazing director who directs something like Cop Car, when he then makes the transition to direct Spider-Man, it's gone.
But this is what, like, this is the reason why, what's the name? That's obviously when it comes to Marvel. That's why they've been.
EA, you mean?
So that's why they've reached where they are, because they get directors, as what you said, who directed Cop Car, the Russo brothers, who before they did
Civil War, they did Community,
a very small atom, but that's another comedy that I enjoy. Very small comedy. Nobody knew about these dudes until they've done that, so they understand and know what these people are like. So they take those elements from the professionalism of those guys, and then they try to incorporate them as much as they can in their.
My argument,
and then they sell them afterwards.
It literally sounds like they're taking a good like development company, like, you know, Pandemic, you know, or some kind of real company, and getting these concepts and then trying to incorporate them in what they find.
But they don't ruin their careers.
They don't ruin their careers, and they give them pretty much full autonomy to make the movies that they want to make.
How come they don't translate to what their initial bodies of work are?
Because it's a completely different show. It's a completely different movie. You can't have.
But this is the format of Marvel superheroes themselves. Is that not the problem then in that sense?
Civil War is not a bad script. It's just not the type of script you like.
So tell me the positive of Civil War.
That's the difference.
Let's talk about the positive Civil War in comparison to the graphic novel, because you gave me the graphic novel.
No, yeah, it's completely different to that.
Why is that?
Because they don't own the rights to all those characters.
Which is interesting. I'm not talking about the rights. Which is interesting because one of the films I would watch, which I probably think sticks true to the comic book, is Deadpool. I can't wait for Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
Because Deadpool in itself, and that's one of the things we spoke about quite a lot, like, with them having to now make this film more available to everyone, including children, means that the source material is going to be different to what you then have naturally. Deadpool in itself, you can take elements of Deadpool and then you can put it into the film and you can put it into web, and it just flows and it runs.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's great. But then the problem that they're now having to do, what do we put it on? 15 or 20? To 12. Oh, we're going to make it 15, but we're going to get more of an age group if we get to 12. We can't then put that in there. And that's why you didn't get a lot of that chopping up in the film, because the original source is different.
I honestly get what you're saying, but it's not a bad script. It's just not a script that you like. Because you're holding up to Civil War the comic, but they're two totally different storylines.
They use the elements,
and they use elements of it. But the reason that they're two different storylines is because they can't use the full storyline from the comic book because of the whole rights thing, blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
I completely understand. Definitely, Dark Knight is definitely one of the best
movies.
Superhero movies ever
even
made.
movies.
But not every movie can be like the Dark Knight. Because
who tried to do that? Somebody tried to. That's
DC
why
have tried
Superman.
to-
Yeah, that's why
DC
Superman. Yeah,
DC
yeah.
tried to go along that, but they totally missed the point. It wasn't the fact that it was dark; it was the fact that it was well written. Civil War as well is a well written movie, but like it genuinely is a well written movie.
I slept. I'm not saying I slept. I genuinely watched this with sincerity. To watch it, I wish. You know what it feels like? It was slimy for me watching it. And it's
But
like,
why?
You know why? Because it felt like I was watching a PG version of a film or a documentary. Like there was moments when there's a scene when I watched the girl take away the bomb and she does the whole thing. And then they have this moment of like she's all sad and upset about what she's done.
Yeah.
And he's there watching all these cameras and all these.
Yeah.
It's corny. It's corny as television. Because no, hear me out. The reason why is because that's a waste of a scene to try and show an emotion that's natural after she's blown up some people. We get that. Unless you're trying to translate that to a 12-year-old about if you blow up people, you might be a little bit sad about it. Because this is the thing about how we translate. So we can say this is the small things that add up to the finished product, right? And this is where acting quality actually makes a difference. Within the way that she's emotionally reacting towards, I've blown up some people.
Yeah.
Cap is there coming out, it's like, oh, we shouldn't have done this, it's not your fault. To the random guy coming through the walls, like, don't do that, we told you not to do that. And that's where it's like the light-hearted comedic moment. But it's the way that it kind of conflicts with the emotions of what's just happened. It doesn't then translate to how the significance of that is. So they're playing around with such an important theme, what's supposed to be an important aspect of what's happened, which then later relates to the UN saying to them, you're now part of this accord and all that type of nonsense. The significance of that moment does not translate with the little pedantic things that they do after that. And that, for me, is already wasting scenes that are supposed to be impactful as a whole.
But and I get that. I'm not saying it's a perfect script.
movie,
So there are moments like that totally agree with everything that you're saying there.
Yeah.
But you are writing it off for one scene because you didn't like how it had played out, and rightfully so. If you watch The Dark Knight now, there are parts of it where you sit back and you think, okay, that didn't make sense. This didn't make sense.
In any context, in every film you can do that.
But what I'm saying is, they're two totally different movies. You almost can't even call Dark Knight a superhero movie.
Why not?
Because of the realism, realistically, if you watch the realism, if you watch The Dark Knight again, what makes The Dark Knight incredible is the Joker. It's not Batman.
It's the Batman reacting to the Joker, but that's a key thing about the Batman.
Yeah.
Is that he could have reacted to it by whatever, but he's forced into a corner because the Joker is so emotively powerful. But then Batman's almost pushed into a corner where he has to react to it. The key thing is, each scene that the Joker is doing something to Batman, the Batman is then having to kind of react to it, and they put emphasis to that moment. It's the thing about it is that
I think I know. Hopefully, I know what you're trying, because I think with The Dark Knight, it was just mainly two main characters, and you just follow their back and forth with just the two of them. But when you go to Civil War, it's more like you have to. How many characters were like 6? 7?
Yes.
So I think probably from that aspect that The Dark Knight could spend as much time as he can on those two characters and do what they needed to do. But obviously on Civil War, you have to. I know probably this could be a good thing or a bad thing, but I think that's the weakness on when it comes to sequels, is that because you have to move on with the story. So with what you were saying about Scarlet Witch, the one who blew up the whole thing, you have to show her progression through the movies to say, okay, this is what happened to her. Now she's not feeling good about it, and then this is how she can move on from there on. Or with what you said with Vision, if with Vision, his thing is that he's learning to be human. He's trying to learn about certain aspects of it. So you have to show it in one scene and necessarily trying to show it throughout the whole movie. You have to go like,
dude, dudes do that stuff every day. Like I'm not talking about things that's unusual. I'll give you a monologue. I'll give you a theme. I just thought about this now. David Oyelowo is one of my favorite actors at the moment.
Yeah.
Acted in Nightingale, where he acts in the film by himself, and he shows so many themes when you're watching him, thinking, like, is it someone at the house? Is it not someone at the house?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And the story is amazing, but there's scenes that also then kind of have an interconnectivity with what's going to happen after. And The thing I don't like, and I think this is maybe my element of maybe watching very powerful performances. That maybe not every performance has to be that powerful. Maybe someone wants to watch something light. I chose to watch something that day to watch. I want to see something quote unquote fairly light. Let me see what's going on. And I watched it, and my mind was like, I feel like it was trying to make me a little bit redundant. You know what I mean?
You went too deep with it.
Yeah, I think so.
But because the whole purpose and premise of a blockbuster to begin with.
That's my problem.
That's your problem, and which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that
already. But at the same time, I don't believe that they should just be. That's why I think that the Dark Knight rather is a blockbuster. That was amazing.
But that wasn't a blockbuster. That's the difference.
It was not a blockbuster. Would you not consider it?
It wasn't considered a blockbuster. That's why it was even it was Oscar nominated. How many blockbusters have been Oscar nominated for anything other than the visual effects or sound or cinematography?
So it's a nonsense movie that we essentially just give out to just watch. But
it's not. You're taking it as a nonsense movie because it's not as deep as The Dark Knight.
I'm not saying it doesn't have to be as deep as The Dark Knight, but please do some damn ass performances before you give it out as a movie.
Dude. But again, even in The Dark Knight, you will see some actors who didn't perform up to.
I'll give it. Okay, no, I'm not.
You know, I think this is going to go
okay. Let's stop the podcast and we'll continue the fight.
I'm just thinking I've got a lot of editing to do.
How long is it?
2
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, no, I think we'll end it right there.
It's just like okay, I will end it here. Now,
Let me hang on. We're gonna.
If I don't know if it was a blockbuster or not.
Yeah,
watch it.
Well, finish it.
Okay. Anyway, so
Sanchez.
whoever's listening to this, you know, wherever I'm gonna post it, just leave me a comment. I don't know. Probably might be one person or two. I don't know.
I think we're gonna have to split this into two.
Yeah, we'll go
part
different
one, part two.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, I just wanna come to the end of this podcast, and hopefully, in the next one's not gonna take us 2 years to do this one. But
Yes.
I'll try to
2 years.
Yeah, I'll try to record at least 12 this year. So that's my aim. Yeah. So hopefully, we'll be able to do that. But I just wanna thank my guest today, TC. Thanks for
being here. I'm glad that the ranch was included with whatever I said.
Man, it was in bold letters and 3 exclamation marks.
Did I live up to reputation?
Yes,
there was more than one rant.
Yeah,
but it's fine.
Man, I was just like,
that's why you love me, guys.
Yeah, that's it. And my co-host is the usual Bo, the only person who knows what kofifi means.
What does that actually mean, bro?
I'll tell you.
We didn't actually talk about him as well. We did well.
We did really
Man,
well. I purposefully didn't talk about Donald Trump because I thought one of you guys.
That's exactly why I left it. I was like, one of you I was gonna bring it up. So
I didn't want to rant.
Kofifi, it's a mumble rap thing. I'll tell you.
Yeah. Anyway, so
I didn't want to rant. So.
Anyway, thank you for listening. If you wanna get in touch with me, you can contact me on Modern Acts Blogs on I didn't even say that properly.
One more time.
It's the beard, you Modern Acts Blogs. That's it.
2.
Hey,
that's a lightweight.
I know. On you can catch me on Gmail, Instagram, Facebook, hopefully on Twitter soon as well. But anyway,
yes.
But yeah, that's the end of the podcast, and we'll see you later. I need to sign out post, but anyway, we'll leave that for the next one.
No way.